happened last week. It just would not do whatever it is doing now. But welcome everyone to the Prepper Trifecta. I got Che from Prepper Logic here. Not sure if JJ will be joining us. He's still in the process of moving, but I sent him the link nonetheless. So it could be more. You have a guest maybe still, or what's the deal with that?
No, not this week. We had one last week.
All right.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, that sucks because he was ready to go, huh?
Yeah, it's all good. We'll get him next week, or we'll get somebody next week for sure.
Cool. So what's been going on in the world?
With me over here in Canada?
Yeah, anything interesting?
Let's see.
Are there talks of second wave and everything like that, like they have here? I mean, you guys still haven't had quite the same amount of like protests and everything, have you?
No, we haven't. I've got a couple articles too, man. Maybe we'll do some screenshots and a little bit talking more specifically about that, because I think what we're seeing, we're not here in Canada seeing the statues being torn down. We're seeing the byproduct of people being, isolated at home, bored, angry, and authorities not necessarily acting as tactful or as forceful as a result of a couple bad apples, a few bad incidents. Right. It's unfortunate, this George Floyd thing and the Wendy's guy, we'll call him.
Yeah.
That's kind of crappy to always be known for the Wendy's.
Right. At least it wasn't like a Long John Silver's or something that was really bad.
Yeah, exactly.
At least like mid-level.
Yeah.
Not long ago, actually, when I was, this wasn't Canada. I was in Nashville, and after a long night, we had to. We were just walking to the hotel, and we had to stand in the drive-thru, like a group of like 4 or 5 of us, and because we didn't have a car and we really needed food. So
really?
Stood, and you're not supposed to do that, but I gave the guy like an extra $20, and we all got some.
That's hilarious, man.
Delicious Wendy's.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I heard they were doing that with truckers. Did you hear that? They were denying them service because the trucks couldn't go through, so they were walking through. It's a month ago.
Well, the trucks probably literally don't fit, would be my guess.
Exactly, right. So they would, and that was, they weren't doing it to be, funny.
Well, because they closed the dining areas, I guess, because of COVID or Corona. So, and the trucks can't fit through the drive-thrus, would be my guess as to why that was happening.
Right, but they would actually deny them service. Some of the places were denying them service.
Wow.
So I think this was a month or so ago when things were really, really tightened down. But
yeah,
that was something I heard. In Canada, no, it's mellow. There's
okay.
You got to line up at the beer store or the grocery marts, and people are. So there's a mix of people here. I suspect probably same out there, or similar in that there's people that are taking it seriously, or at least having the precautions of not getting in your face and being mindful and respectful. And there's people that just don't care. Throwing.
It's interesting. They just recently modified the gaming board here in Nevada modified it so that you have to wear a mask now if you're at a table game and they don't have a plastic divider. So if you're just walking around the casino, whatever, you don't necessarily have to. But if you're at a game like blackjack or craps or poker or whatever, it's like an actual table with other people, that now you have to wear it if there isn't like a divider between you and the dealer, which they haven't done in any of them. But
another business, I mean, that I can't believe I didn't see this, similar with toilet paper 3 months ago, which is the plexiglass business. Imagine all these businesses that are just, we're going to, as you're saying there, we're going to have these sort of modified rules. Every place is probably maybe a little bit different. Maybe you'll have different states have different types of regulations, but a lot of it is going to involve a lot of plexiglass being put on.
Every drive-through I've gone to and stuff has had a little extra shield behind the thing so you can reach under the slots and stuff. So if you extrapolate that across the country, that's a lot of like Lexan and plexiglass or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, in Canada we've got we've got a coffee chain here called Tim Hortons. Very popular coffee. I don't know what the rage is about that, but they've sort of created a system where the debit machine, they've taped it to a hockey stick. It's sort of a Canadian thing.
It's so good. They hand it out to you?
Hand it out to the window, yeah.
A hockey stick, that's great.
I thought that was kind of cool.
That is cool, yeah.
So
might help anyways, like leaning out. But that's the thing here now too, where you're trying to get some Chick-fil-A or whatever, and there's some person holding this card swiper, and you're like, like missing it, trying to get it in.
Yeah, exactly.
I just want my chicken.
I'll try and dig up a picture of that.
That's pretty good.
You called this Revenge of the Statues. Do you want to
That was just I always have trouble coming up with the names, so it's not anything specific. That was just something that I thought about. Some of my memes are related to that, so that's why only memes really. But yeah, there's been a specific push lately here in the U.S. at least with all this civil unrest to tear down statues. It started with overtly Civil War related, Confederate related stuff, but now it's expanded to now they're trying to get the Theodore Roosevelt statue removed from in front of some museum, and it's like what the this is now it's just general anything that's basically old and white is just getting knocked over.
Right.
That's basically
and what's your view on that? Do you think anything should be ripped down? Do you think some stuff should be ripped
down?
No,
it depends. I mean, like where you could always make the argument that someone was representing bad things or whatever, or that we shouldn't worship certain people or whatever. But like Caesars and the pyramids, those all were built by slavery and people who did horrible, incestuous things and murderous things. So is there like some zone where if once you're old enough, it's okay, and now it counts as like history, and you shouldn't knock it down. But if it's only 100 years old, now you have to destroy it. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I think we both can agree that it's lunacy.
Yeah,
and it's and unfortunately, it seems like the toddler infancy stages of a lot of more
it's lashing out. Yeah, exactly.
I don't take any personal offense. I mean, I've obviously got a different color of skin than the majority.
Yeah.
And I don't understand somebody was a slave owner and did some bad stuff, but at the time it was considered we'll just call it social normality, for lack of a better phrase or term. It was acceptable to have slaves 500 years ago.
Right. And like being a cannibal in a cannibal tribe or something, where you grew up from birth and you're just like, oh, the guy was a cannibal. Like, oh, yeah, you would have been too if you grew up in that tribe. You wouldn't have just been like, you know what? I'm not going to eat human. That seems weird. Like from birth, you were growing up. But I mean, at the same time, like there is a difference between if there was some statue about like, this guy was the biggest and best slave owner of all time. Like, okay, that's different. But he founded some institution or something along those lines and also happened to engage in this thing that was legal at the time.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's the thing. That's the key word there. Legal and socially normal at the time. That
doesn't mean it was right. Yeah, that doesn't mean
it doesn't mean it was right. Of course not. But the truth is, and like you said, to elaborate on your point, is you can find something, bad, negative, offensive. Anybody. I don't care what your color of skin is. Black Lives Matter, or whatever movements that are out there that support Black Lives Matter. Personally, I think all lives matter is the correct motto. Watch me get banned from YouTube for saying that.
Stream's gonna get shut down.
Yeah. But it just, they're not going to stop until you see a handicapped transgendered black woman statue.
Well, that's the thing. They're not even going to stop then, because that's what I was just telling somebody on Twitter, I think, about this. It's not. That's why the rules keep changing, because it's not about any one of these particular issues. It's just there's multiple nations now within the U.S. and they're all competing basically, or just fighting, and they really aren't going to stop until they just destroy the other ones. That's why a lot of these groups you see out there, it's not just black people, that are doing these things. It's because it's not strictly speaking about race. That's one of the things that has bubbled up into the surface, but that's not what most of this conflict is literally about. You know what I mean? It's just about, it's culture basically. And there's multiple cultures, nations, if you will, within the US. And I think that's why at some point we're not going to see a strict civil war in that sense, but I do think we will see a fracturing. I mean, we're seeing it now, but I think we can see an overt split of some kind within the next 20 years. Very possible.
Sure, this is festering, and the pendulum has swung a little too far to the left, and I think people are going to see just how asinine and ridiculous and crazy this is in the months or in the near future. But nevertheless, I think the explosion, the virus is what really caused all this lunacy to explode, in my opinion.
Yeah, you coop people up, and then you put them in a position where many people were pressured financially or economically. Some weren't, even because they got stimulus and whatnot, but they're still stuck at home just thinking, basically, whatever, festering, like you said, and all this stuff bubbled to the surface. Being controlled or limited in any way kind of gets people on edge, and once that lasts for months,
right.
And we even mentioned that in a few of the trifectas, because if these keeps up, people are going to start acting out. And couldn't necessarily predict what it would be about. It's just whatever thing you had in your head that was kind of nagging at you, now it becomes the place where you're going to vent,
Right. Explode.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the percentage is. If I were to guess, to say that, we'll say 40% of the population that are protesting and have legitimate
right.
Arguments against the
Right.
government. George Floyd, that's horrific. If you're going to go out and with respect to what happened to him, you're going to go out to a protest and in his name to advocate for change. Okay, that's one thing.
The grievance doesn't have to be bogus for, it could be legitimate.
For sure.
Yeah,
it could be legitimate, but and what I'm saying is there's a subset, because there are people that are doing a legitimate protest, but there's also, as you're suggesting, which I believe, people are using that as the excuse to
just want to break things. Some people just want to break stuff.
Yeah. And I wonder how many. I wonder what the other, and I made a video about this last week, just how preppers are just sort of watching the madness unfold.
Right.
I don't see civil unrest, or excuse me, not civil unrest, a civil war. It's not going to happen with the left.
Yeah. Not, like I said, not in like left versus right, not like that strictly speaking.
No.
It'll be like authoritarians versus, and it'll be in regional, maybe, who knows, different types of conflicts. It's hard to say.
Yep.
What kind of comments we got? Checking in from Northern Illinois. Hello all. Good evening. Doing well. Okay, Che, can you send me some Chi-Com ammo, 10 cases? I don't think Che's in the business of giving away ammo, but I mean, maybe you could.
I'm not. Nice. Well, black market, sure.
Yeah, selling maybe one thing. Maybe you need another Bowflex.
I've been using it. It's not too bad. What I found is I might share an article, a screen share in a second.
Bowflexes aren't really that gay.
Yeah. Well, it was, it didn't cost me very much.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You got the each has got like a handle, so they're sort of independent. I got a metal pole to put through, and that was just awesome to do. When you use both arms at the same time. Right. So super cool.
Says what? No, JJ Johnfun. I don't know if that's misspelled. Yeah, as we mentioned past couple weeks, JJ's in the process of moving many states away, thousands of miles. So he has been getting his place ready to sell and doing all this other stuff. He said at some point he may be dropping in on some of these, but the time being he's incredibly busy, but he will be back eventually. Will they try to cancel all the slave-owning Native Americans? Not likely. And then someone said, JJ's protesting with Antifa.
That'd be funny, eh?
That would be funny. We see him in the background. Someone rips his. Puts his.
Yeah. Good old JJ. Yeah. Good evening, Brian Hickinbottom says. Good evening, Eric.
Ooh, yeah, just me.
Okay.
Nothing for no love for Shay.
Screw you, Brian. All right. While you're looking at that, I'm going to share the screen for a second. And
says we're waiting for more things to happen. Stock market is next. It's weird. I honestly don't know, because with all the mass amount of money that the Fed is creating and is obviously willing to create to pump it up, who knows? We might never see a real crash in that sense. What we eventually will see is a devaluing of the currency, or a changing to something new. But that may take the form of an inflationary collapse, where they're pumping money into the system at such a rate that the nominal prices of stuff like stocks go through the roof. So there might not be a collapse in that sense, but it's hard to say. All right, what does this say? Christopher Columbus died in 1506. If he's ruining your happiness in 2020, you need to seek therapy.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree.
It says it all right there. Black Lives Matter. Activist injects race into Kellogg's cereal packaging. And this is
they said like it's got 3 white boys on the on the Rice Krispies.
Right, and then the Cocoa Puffs on the other side. I got an image here. It's got it's a monkey.
Right, and they're reading into that to say, they're like, why are they? Because the Cocoa Puffs are brown. It's like, I don't know what the argument is. That like you can never use a monkey for a mascot, or it automatically means they're making fun of black people. I don't get it. I mean, exactly. I literally don't understand what they're saying.
No, I don't either. It's just a complete irrationality.
Like, is any use of a monkey? It is a real animal. Monkeys exist. Can you not use them as mascots? I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be.
Is that the little hockey stick thing?
Yeah. It's a hockey stick with a debit machine, which is pretty cool.
Oh man, that's great.
And this is something I've seen pop up in Facebook recently a few times, actually, talking about it. Something new. and the potential of an EMP. So maybe we can talk about that for a minute or two.
Yeah,
But,
EMP has always been. Oh, go ahead. I don't want to interrupt you. But it's just very interesting to me because there's so much varying information out there about it, and none of us really know what would happen.
But to sort of my personal way to sum up this whole Black Lives Matter Cocoa Puffs, this lunacy is. Next is going to be marshmallows. 90% of marshmallows are white. And there's some sort of inherent discrimination there. So
that reminds me of this old Mad TV skit where they had and the show Malcolm in the Middle.
Yeah.
They had Malcolm X in the middle, and they did like a fake one. And they're like, Malcolm, go brush your teeth. And he's like, what's the matter? They're not white enough for you?
Wow. Can't do that today.
Yeah, no way.
Away with that. Yeah, nope. You'd be done. I don't particularly know why I'm seeing this sort of stuff pop up, and this sort of debunks it for me here. What it says, China may be plotting, just the word may.
China. Okay, they always could. There may be an asteroid hurtling towards the planet. We haven't seen one. There may be.
There may be, exactly. There may be a bunch of, exactly. Blackout China plotting, and if it's a surprise too, then why?
Right, and it says maybe plotting to, and then the rest of the article is plunge the U.S. into darkness and kill tens of millions of people.
Millions of people.
Oh, God damn.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe. I even heard something about the Nibiru,
Planet X or whatever it is.
I know preppers that actually believe in this stuff.
Yeah. There's a lot of weird stuff out there.
And today was a day.
One of the comments says, wait, monkeys are real? So yes, it's birds that are fake, but monkeys are very real.
It seems like people have got their own little conversations
going, and they don't even need us anymore.
Yeah, exactly. We just shoot the shit.
Could you guys shut up for a second? We're trying to have a conversation over here.
Hello from sunny Southern California.
Hello.
Nice to join us, Mark.
I saw someone posted this thing that they were like, I accidentally bought 10-round magazines because they had like a block in them. And they're like, what am I supposed to do with these? And I was like, I don't know, give them to a Californian in need, I guess. Since they're only allowed to have the 10 rounds.
Wow. Jeez, that's...
Yeah, so what they do is they actually take a 30-round mag and just put like a big follower in it. So it's super easily modified, to be able to hold more rounds if you want, but...
Ours are moronic here. We've actually got like a 20 or 25 round mag, and there's literally a pin that
stops it.
Stops it. That's it. Yeah. Yeah.
Whoops! It fell out.
Right. It's yeah.
My bad.
It's very, 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 very asinine here. So, questions, capitals, all caps, people. If you've got a question for me or Eric with respect to the statues coming down.
Or EMPs or Nibiru. Or
Nibiru. Yeah. I don't believe that's I don't know. I don't believe in the Nibiru story.
No, I don't know. I've seen, and it's all weird stuff. I'm like, so what? And all the previous, it's like stuff was supposed to have happened already based on these people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like every few years, we're like, oh, it's coming this year, kind of thing. The gravitational forces as it comes out behind the sun, or all this stuff. Like I don't know.
A lot of conspiracy coming out of the preparedness world too. I mean, some people don't actually believe the virus is real.
Yeah, we've talked about that before. Very interesting.
Or they
believe literally doesn't exist or something.
Right. Or they believe it's a
not like a false flag, but like a purposely released planned event.
Intentionally released for some sort of bigger ulterior motive or event, like the New World Order or something like that.
Yeah, to get everybody chipped or something because they get the quote unquote vaccine.
Yeah. Right. So I don't know.
Here's a question. How long would it take to canoe approximately 800 miles? Well, depends on how fast you canoe, I guess.
Yeah.
Distance divided by your rate, right?
You got to do kilometers for me.
What the hell's a mile?
Yeah.
Well, I know 10K is about 6.2. So there's 80-10, so 480 something. No, it'd be more than that. I did it backwards. 800 miles would be divided by 6, and then it'd be 10 times that roughly in kilometers.
You're on the spot. Forget this trifecta thing. It's just like math. Math in 30 seconds.
Out of my nose. Quick maths.
Yeah, Matthew, that's an odd question. I can tell you up here in Canada, we get a lot of lakes, and portage is the way to go in the summertime. You actually take the canoe, put on your shoulders,
and
walk through uphills, downhills. I've done, I don't know, 20, 30 kilometer stretches.
Yeah, that's pretty far.
With doing the paddling and then the portage.
That's like 18 miles. 30K is like 18 miles, I think.
Yeah, that's over a week though. That's a good. That's a good trek. But if you want to get away from people, then especially if you're hunting too, then that's the way to do it. Then you're completely isolated. William McCaslin, let's hear about the latest gun laws from Trudeau. I haven't heard anything recently.
What's the status on all that?
It's May 1st. He came out with this nonsensical statements of some of the firearms owners received letters, preemptive letters saying, hey, this is what's happening. You're going to have to, my understanding is you can hand them over for free right now. No compensation. And just, here you go. Or
just to be a good citizen.
Or there's some sort of purchase program that they're trying to implement. But we discussed this a couple weeks ago. I think it was off the air. It was sort of alluding to the fact that a lot of these firearms can get dressed up. So I generally don't like to talk firearms online, but you've got an SKS and you've got a aftermarket stock and
all sorts of upgrades and accessories.
So you turn your $200 basic stock crap Chinese or Russian rifle to $1,000 rifle, and those buybacks are not going to account for. They're not going to give you $1,000 for that. So
no, you would have to. What I would do, honestly, if it comes to the point where you have to sell them back, is whatever part is considered of a rifle, like the lower receiver.
Yeah.
Rip that out, send that in, and then sell the rest to Americans online if you had to, at least recoup some of the money.
That's a good point. Yeah, I don't think it will.
Because none of that is considered the gun, but
we've got a 2-year amnesty, so you know.
Hopefully, I'll have time to knock some sense into some people.
My understanding, they're going to be there's 2 organizations, the NFA and the CCFR, and I think there's 4 in total. We don't have the NRA. You guys have the NRA,
right? Yeah, we've got groups similar to that as well.
But they're basically the de facto there. They're the main player. So we've got our players, quote unquote, attempting to make a charter argument against the Trudeau Liberal government. How tough are your feet, Che? From Lucius Cincinnatus. That's a very odd question.
Well, we have another one. Yeah, you stepped on some. We get some action for the feet people.
I do like,
It's gonna be freeze framed and downloaded right there.
Fetish, yeah.
Let me smell them.
We got it.
Exactly. We got
it. Yeah, girls will be looking at that in bed tonight. Photos of that. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's up for my feet.
Here's a good one. Is the next Canadian election before the gun ban effective date? Like the prime minister election, I'm guessing.
No, when was it? October? Last October, November, something like that.
How long does it run for? I don't even
4
remember.
years.
The terms, 4-year terms. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's.
So no. Yeah.
Right, and I mean, I know people that. Well, let's just say it's not going to happen. I highly doubt it's going to happen.
That's good. Good. I'm glad. Hopefully that's right.
Well, I'll let you read the comments there for a second. I'll just go on a 30-second ramble here to sort of summarize it. There's this when you bypass the media, any sort of political debate, any sort of discussion about it, and you go right to the bill. This is what we're doing. You're going to have flaws, just inherently by the way that you're doing it. And I believe he banned an airsoft rifle through the ignorance of his. Not him personally, but the way that the legislation was put together. He definitely took advantage of the coronavirus and did it through something called an order in council, which allowed him to bypass traditional ways or means or methods of introducing and establishing this bill. So I'm not too concerned. It's crappy for a lot of people because they just can't use the rifles for the next 2 years, and probably till the next election, basically. But there are organizations, the CCFR, Canadian Coalition of Firearms Rights, and the NFA, National Firearms Association. In addition to some political conservatives on our side that are grossly against Mr. Trudeau's firearm policy. I just don't see it happen. I don't.
Good. I'm definitely genuinely happy to hear that, because it's disgusting it's overreach. Yeah.
It's, and one of the biggest issues we have in Canada, let alone most countries right now, is money. Everybody's putting their hand in the cookie jar, taking care of people, rightfully so, as we should be. Do you think 2 years from now the Canadian government is going to have an extra, surplus $1 billion laying around
to buy all these weapons,
to purchase all these weapons back?
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not. Someone says, any solar item ideas for the big bad EMP? Not sure what you mean by solar items. You mean items that run off solar, like solar power? Because then you'd have to shield them in some way if they're electrical.
Do you have a GOA?
Gun Owners of America. That's another NRA, I think is what they're referring to. It's an NRA kind of similar organization. It's actually usually considered to be better. It's not nearly as large or as well funded. The NRA, they do a lot. Like just having them there and the amount of funding that they have is a pretty good backstop for a lot of stuff. But they're not the final form of. They're too willing to give certain concessions and things like that. Try to play to be popular, I guess. But they're definitely helpful, and there's no doubt about that. But Gun Owners of America, I think, as an organization, is much more ideologically pure. Let's just put it that way. But the NRA has done a lot.
Yeah. Well, as a Canadian, my perspective as far as guns in America is the NRA is basically going to fight to death to ensure that nothing happens to your Second Amendment.
Right. At the base level, yeah.
Yeah. EMP solar items, beans, corn, tomatoes, potatoes. We got some messed up questions tonight, man.
Yeah. I mean, EMP in general, EMP preparedness is identical to preparedness for anything else. You have to cover your bases of the basics that you need. You need food, you need help, you need protection. The only difference is anything that you are planning on using that runs off electricity, you're going to have to either find an alternative or find a way to shield it. So
that's right. That's a really, really good way to summarize it. And if you shield it, I think one of the first things I've got in my Faraday cage is a way to generate power. I've got a little permanent magnet motor. So it's sort of a fascinating concept. But if you could spin an axle, if you can turn an axle, you can generate power. And that applies to wind turbine, hydroelectricity, water,
bicycle pedal, whatever you want to do.
Exactly. So if you've got that DC or that permanent magnet motor and you can spin it somehow, you can make your own bike generator.
I've always played with the idea of I don't really know that much. I'm not a mechanical engineer. I'm not an electrician. But just the idea of instead of like cranking something like a bicycle or like a hand crank flashlight being the ultimate example of, it's relatively easy. So you have to do a lot of it because, if you had a crank that was like, you could generate a lot more electricity in a briefer period of time than sitting there spinning for a minute. So it's something like a hydraulic jack where you like literally jack up a giant like 15,000 ton boulder and then having some sort of reducing gears to where it would like come down incredibly slowly while it's spinning a massive wheel. So you could spend a relatively intense amount of energy over an hour jacking up this giant boulder as opposed to a relatively easy amount of energy but not producing any electricity.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. That totally makes sense.
Because I'd rather like deadlift 500 pounds. Well, I can't deadlift 500 pounds yet.
Sure.
Let's say I'd rather deadlift 350 pounds up one time than sit there relatively easily spinning something for an hour.
45 minutes.
And the same amount of work is being done, or possibly even more when you're just simply lifting the heavy weight. But you just have to have a way to capture it and convert it with some sort of reducing gear system to where it's spinning something really heavy and it's going down really slowly, but generating electricity.
Right.
That'd be a lot easier. Instead of pedaling a bike, for an hour to charge a battery, why not just lift something really heavy 2 or 3 times?
Get it done.
And get it, then you're done. It takes a minute.
Yeah. But it may take.
And you could even use a hydraulic jack or something like that. Take a little bit longer and lift something incredibly heavy.
I guess
it's another way to store energy, physical.
Yes. Well, you'd either have to store it or you'd have to use it. And if you have to store it,
Storing it's easy because you just physically block the thing from coming down, and then when you need it,
you'd have to have multiple gear reductions.
Yeah, exactly.
If it weighed 500 pounds, and you convert that to, and you've got a car battery.
Well, you can't hook up your little flashlight directly too, because it goes. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
You have to have some kind of clutch system.
You'd have to have multiple gear systems to reduce it, and then sort of emulate that 1 hour bicycle bike ride. Right.
Yeah. So if you could lift up that 300 pounds and then have the reducing system, kind of like clocks, how you have something like a click, click, and only allowing a little bit, then that could be spinning that flashlight very easily for hours, probably. Yes. Just by coming down in little clicks at a time. Whereas you sitting there spinning the flashlight for an hour, it would be horrible. You know what I mean? But lifting up 200 pounds one time is incredibly simple.
Ironically,
a strapping young man like myself.
You're right. There is a system, and so I saw this a few years back, and maybe I'll try and bring it up for next week's episode. It was a concept, third world country.
I saw that, the light where you lift the weight.
Yeah, you lift exactly.
I was so surprised. I was like, this is what I was talking about, because I came up with this idea as just a base level idea in my head a long time ago, and I didn't know what to do with it because I'm not like mechanically inclined to that extent.
Sure.
But then I saw that and I was like, oh, they did it. That's the general idea of what I'm talking about. But then it never seemed to go anywhere. So I don't know if they didn't scale it properly or if they didn't build the thing efficiently, or I don't know. But it just never seemed to go anywhere. And I was like, I need to make this thing and do it right, because that's exactly what I was talking about on a small scale. I was thinking about scaling it up, having the weight be hundreds of pounds or maybe even thousands, and then using pulleys and stuff to lift it up, but then do the exact same thing. Because you could do so much more work in a condensed period of time. It'd be much more efficient.
Yeah, and that would shipping would be expensive.
And you could store, because that's the hardest thing in a real kind of advanced scenario. Storing energy is very difficult. Batteries can go bad. One off the grid thing I saw, they stored energy by converting it. They used the electricity to create hydrogen out of water. Yeah. And then stored that in pressurized canisters. I'm like, that's a lot of loss in that system too. It's being converted back and forth differently. Then you have to burn the hydrogen. Like there's going to be so much energy lost there, and there's different. Yeah. It's complex compressors, all this other stuff. Whereas literally lifting a giant steel plate or a concrete block or something is relatively simple, easily fixed.
Yes.
Modified. You take weight on and off of it, whatever you want.
Yeah. That's smart. That's smart thinking. Sure, there's loss. Well, there's loss with everything, really.
Right. But there's multiple back and forth conversions in that system.
Yeah.
But they're using solar to convert to electricity, then using that energy to make the hydrogen, and then having to compress it into a tank, and then burning it finally at the end.
Well, there's a huge advantage to put in a tank. Yes, there is a huge advantage to putting in a tank, though.
Yeah. It's pretty stable storage. Like gases like that, propane or whatever, stored in a tank.
The advantage is if you want fire, stove, boom.
Yeah, boom.
Don't have to think about it. It's right there. You want that, boiling water in 10 minutes. It's a done deal. You have to play with sticks and all that other stuff. It's very convenient to have energy stored in a vessel. For me personally, I'd like to have. I know we talked about aquaponics, so I got to get some files from you. I think that's a fall thing for me. But after that, probably next year, I'll be experimenting with biogas. I don't know if you've heard of this or not.
Like wood gasifiers or something?
Not wood gas.
Oh, usually like methane from compost or what?
Yeah, exactly. So, we've got
like Bartertown from Mad Max 3.
Exactly. Exactly. There you go.
No more methane.
Yes. Exactly.
Master Blaster.
Master Blaster. Yeah. And it would be great to store that in a tank.
Sure.
You're not doing a lot of. There's energy loss, but most of the energy, it's the microbes. It's breaking down the organic matter.
For me, the complex part would be the pressurized system that you have to create and compressing the gas to store it. That would be
I haven't got there yet, and that's what I was going to say. Is I understand the concept, but I haven't.
Because the anaerobic
experimented.
Decomp that creates this kind of gases is relatively simple to create. You can do it with all sorts of stuff, from any sort of biomass, manure, whatever. Stuff's easy to find, but then creating the whole system would be tougher, obviously.
Well, we've got a lot of that with the rabbits and the chickens and all that. The that sort of matter. So the raw materials to create the energy isn't going to be an issue. Interest me with the what were you just mentioning that made me think of something? 2 seconds ago.
I don't remember what.
Oh yeah, the hydrogen. We're talking about the.
Oh, the hydrogen. Yeah.
Just that always puzzled me with vehicles with this with hydrogen, because you need hydrogen. People hear, oh, it's a hydrogen car, hydrogen. Oh wow.
Right.
It's not free,
No.
To create hydrogen, you need electricity. Where's the electricity come from, right? So
right. That's the whole problem with all these kind of clean energy forms, is none of this stuff or electric cars. Like, okay, so where's the electricity coming from? Now, instead of just burning the fossil fuels directly in your car, you have to burn them somewhere else and then store the electricity. And it's not always. I mean, obviously, electricity can come from hydroelectric, from solar, from all sorts of other stuff too. But in general, it's not automatically cleaner or whatever just to use an electric car, because this depends on how the electricity is created.
Yeah. Body X Politic, any Aunt Jemima memes. I put one on my Facebook page, and it's weird that, we got two preppers here. We're talking about the asinine, batshit crazy that is happening in the U.S.
And now to some extent, it's becoming, I don't want to say a game, but the fervor is so high that it's like you get points, basically woke points, for being the first to be the first one to, this is not woke either. So people are like rushing to find out who to cancel, or some new thing that's racist and all this stuff. So it almost becomes like a competition, you know what I mean, to find a new thing that's breaking the rules. And the rules are always changing, like I mentioned. So
yeah, snap, crackle, pop. That just yeah, it's a big joke to me.
Shitty cereal anyway.
Yeah,
it's soggy instantly.
I don't feel as I'm sure there's a particular type of people out there that are probably more nervous. Here, you want to see a meme? I got one.
Yeah. It's also the dichotomy between like always trying to get representation and then getting mad for appropriation too. You know what I mean? There's like this razor thin margin of like a Land O'Lakes Indian or something. It was literally just like an Indian woman or a Native woman in a canoe. You know, it wasn't like a overtly exaggerated or stereotypical presentation or whatever, beyond maybe like the attire being more of like a ceremonial than what you would actually wear on a day-to-day basis. But it wasn't negative in any sense, you know what I mean? But that's not good either, you know what I mean? So, but if you have everything be white characters and white mascots, then that becomes an issue too. They're like, where's the representation?
Well, you know what? If it was white people that founded America, and it was white people that XYZ so many years ago, and they're white statues, and they were slave owners, so be it. It is what it is. I mean, they canceled.
It's all going to be Chinese statue people, or statues of Chinese people in China.
Yeah. Right. So, like, what's the issue? They banned.
I saw the new idea was Lando Lakes, and it was Lando Calrissian from Star Wars, and he was the mascot for Land O'Lakes butter.
Really?
it was a meme, but I'll try to find it.
Wow.
Because they actually took the woman off the butter like image, and it's just the water now.
I'm not familiar with that butter. It's Lando.
It's called Land O'Lakes, like Land of Lakes.
Right. Yes.
But it had like a Native American woman in a canoe on the front.
Right,
so they just removed that image, and now it's just the landscape. So someone was like, typical. They got rid of the Indian and kept her land. But then the joke one was like Lando Lakes, and it was Lando Calrissian. They're like, here's the new image.
Got it. Yes, I did see that. That was that's it's funny to me. It's entertaining how some of these mega corporations are bowing down
so quickly, because like I said, they don't realize the spot, like regardless of what the issue is, whether you think it's legitimate or not, when you set yourself in a position where you instantly are going to kowtow and then modify your entire business based on this pressure, this outrage, whatever you want to call it, that puts you in an incredibly precarious spot where you're basically under their thumb, so to speak. And also, like, what are the logistical and financial opportunity costs of doing stuff like this? Just bowing to external pressure. And honestly, I was talking with someone about this the other day, that we're getting to a point where companies we're either going to have to get to a system where people just give up and say, I don't care anymore. There's just too many things that are unwoke. We can't do it anymore. We just can't. You know what I mean? Like, even if we wanted to, we literally just can't keep up with it all. Or it's going to get into a position where businesses are going to literally have to choose which side, they are going to be catering to. They say, you know what, we're either going to be a business for this political ideology and these certain groups and cater to their whims, or we're going to be the one who's like for the other side, you know. And I hope that's not the case, but we're rapidly heading that way.
Yeah, it's very odd to me. I mean, it's companies too. I mean, it's speaking of gears earlier. It's really a profit-driven machine, and the majority of them will have no qualms giving 10 grand to charity and spending 100 grand promoting that they give 10 grand to charity.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because they want to give the illusion that they
it's just
care.
Advertising. Yeah.
And I don't think there's much of a difference with, removing some lady on a canoe off of a thing of what it was butter, right? I believe.
Yeah, Land O'Lakes butter.
And we don't have that here in Canada. At least I don't think.
Probably margarine anyway. Don't need that seed oil crap.
Just canola oil. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Soy.
It's garbage.
Fucking soy. Give you bitch tits and.
Yeah. Yeah, it's. The funny we're talking about finances, the financial repercussions are potentially huge. You remember what happened with Gillette?
Right, that's what I mean. Yeah. Oh, exactly. Well, that's what I mean. We're getting to a point where businesses are going to have to choose and literally just lose half of their potential client base.
Okay.
If it continues, I'm hoping we're getting to a point where it just kind of have a blow off top and everyone realizes this is getting out of hand and you can't just kowtow to every whim every little like nuance as it pops up. But I don't know. I don't see, like I said, with the way the country is with so many different groups, those certain groups are always going to be mad. And if the businesses wants to get them as clients or as people using their services, then they're going to have to.
Right.
To some extent cater to them. So it's some way you'll be inadvertently making a choice, even by saying we can't really keep up with all the little things, that right there is making a choice of who you're going to cater to. So in that sense, I think it's inevitable.
Well, that coupled with the fact that we've got social media where in the last 15 years, it's instantaneously
and everything's lightning fast.
Lightning fast in your face. And we've seen examples in the past of corporations that just kind of shrug their shoulders and they got decimated financially. Right. Gillette is probably the best example of that. So,
yeah, here we got some more questions. William McCaslin says, "Where's JJ moving to? Thought he lived in God's country." Well, I've got his new address right here. I'll email it that now. He has mentioned openly that he's moving to Indiana. Yeah, I couldn't remember if it's Illinois or Indiana. I think it's Indiana.
Indiana.
Yeah, Indiana. Eric, did you go plinking this week? I did not. I was scheduled to maybe go this morning. But the brakes on the Bronco, I have had no time, and they're literally scraping, and I just couldn't do it. I have to replace the brakes before I go, so I was like, I'll do it next weekend. Any Aunt Jemima memes? No, my memes are not very spicy.
All right, yeah. Just while you're looking up questions, I'll share the screen again. I've got.
Yeah, the gator bait. Chant is no longer going to be used at University of Florida because it has supposedly racist connotations.
Which one? The gator bait.
Yeah, so the University of Florida, my alma mater, is the Florida Gators. Okay. So anyone we were playing that week would be like, "You're gator bait" or whatever. But apparently there's some either urban legend or possibly real thing where black babies were used to bait alligators or something.
Wow.
So yeah. So now you can't say that anymore.
Why? What's the problem? I don't understand. Is that not?
I guess a lot of people have a problem with it.
This sums up nicely here. Can you see? You can see my screen, right?
It says BLM soy boy. Transgender CW. Are they normal? They're in a pool of urine.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. It's funny because you'd think everybody would be pointing and laughing at the person that peed themselves.
Right, but they're all the people pointing at the one who didn't pee himself.
Yeah.
For not being like them.
Yeah, and my one crappy meme I've got this week: help us make your pubic areas safe. Do not let
pubic areas. Is that real, or they misspelled it all?
Yeah, they misspelled it. Look at the middle, the second.
Yeah, put their face in your pubic area.
Pubic area, right?
Protect your pubic area with a shopping trolley.
Yeah.
Oh man, I've got a couple memes here. Let me see. I just 2 or 3, and then I have an interesting video. It's 15 seconds long. It's just nothing related. So it's from my dash cam. So
all right, was Black Lives Matter?
No,
protest driving to work.
Yeah, no, luckily no. So can you see? Wait, let me go back. I think I did this wrong. Okay. So can you see that one? It says feeling increasingly victimized members of the statue community start to fight back. People posing with statues, beating them up. And then we had
yeah, that's pretty good.
How long before the statue of Rocky Balboa gets pulled down? He beat up 3 black men and a communist. And then we have reports of mass looting. This is a dad joke in honor of Father's
Day.
Bunch of people playing the loot.
Yeah.
And then let me see. I'm going to stop the live share and I'll pull up.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
the statue one. That's pretty good.
This one right. Yeah, this won't have audio because the file does not have audio anyway, so I'm not have to worry about. For some reason, my dash cam was turned off. But this was just actually last week or whenever it was that I did go shooting. There was like a dust devil, sort of like a mini tornado that I actually drove through in the Bronco, which is pretty cool.
Oh man!
So, can you see that footage?
Yep.
The expansive white hood. So here we go. So we're driving. You'll see it on the right here.
Holy cow!
Coming across the road, and it actually was like the Bronco weighs like 4,500 pounds, and I still had to fight to keep it on the road when I drove through it. Whoosh! Right there.
Wow!
It tried to push me over.
Whoa!
You can kind of see it.
Yeah. You can see the car. You can actually see it shift.
And you could see all the trash, and then the car kind of went into the lane. It's pretty wild.
Wow! What did it sound like?
It was loud. It just sounded like wind, but it was loud. It sounded like wind over Rage Against the Machine, which I was blaring on my on my stereo. So.
Oh, Christy would like that. The girl in California, she loves Broncos and she loves Rage Against the Machine.
Oh well, there you go. I'll try not to steal her from you.
It's like your favorite band.
Yeah, I've been rocking out to them a lot lately.
Yeah, they were supposed to tour.
And then they had like $1,000 tickets and stuff, which is funny because they were always like anti-capitalist and all this.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely never agreed with them politically by any stretch.
Yeah, I've got mixed views, I suppose, on some of their messages.
Yeah, I mean the general, the certain mention, but the specifics, no way. They're definitely pretty overtly like communists.
I was talking with my buddy about this the other day. The bass player, it's almost like he's got the epitome of tattoos. He just gave up because typically like. You know what I mean? Like he's just.
I don't remember all I know is Morello and David Del Rocca or whatever. Like.
Right, him. He's got like his whole upper body. It's like my T-shirt is his tattoo. It's all
that's solid.
It's just one solid color. Apparently, yeah, it's hilarious. I should bring. I'll bring up a picture. Some white guy.
Yeah.
Long and the short of it, though, with this whole BLM thing, I don't know.
If she likes Rage, she should listen to Prophets of Rage. It's like Rage Against the Machine.
Look, she's online.
Minus. There you go. Minus.
You're gonna ask her directly.
It's a singer from like Cypress Hill and Public Enemy mixed with the remaining members of Rage Against the Machine, including Morello. So it sounds really similar musically. The vocals are obviously different, but it's pretty good.
I gotta process that again. So it's De La Rocca.
No, it's not him.
Oh, it's not him.
It's Morello and one or two of the other guys from Rage. Yeah.
Okay.
And then it's guys from Public Enemy and Cypress Hill.
Really?
And it's called Prophets of Rage. Yeah. That's pretty good. It sounds a lot. The music is almost identical to Rage because Morello's guitar.
Which right, and there's the two singers. There's really only one singer in Public Enemy, which is
I think it's the Cypress Hill guys, the vocals. I think.
Okay. Which guys from Public?
I don't know. I don't know the names. I just know it's people from those 3 bands come together to make. I think it was Public Enemy. I'm not even 100% sure it's Public Enemy. I know it's Rage and Cypress Hill. And then there's like basically
Public Enemy was all right. They had the one main vocalist. Yeah. Then they had this one idiot that he did this thing with his glasses off and on, and he always wore clocks around his neck.
Oh, Flava Flav?
Yes.
Yeah. It was not Flava Flav. It's not in there. Like I'm saying, it might not be Public Enemy. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it says formed in 2016. It consists of 3 members of Rage Against the Machine and Audio Slave, 2 members of Public Enemy, and rapper Be Real of Cypress Hill.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
cool.
But they're good. If you like Rage, you'll probably like the sound.
There you go, Christy. You gotta check it out, Christy.
Prophets of Rage.
All right.
What are the questions we got?
That's it. That's it for questions.
Wants to talk to us anymore.
Nobody wants to talk to us. I think we should wrap this up early. Nobody's chatting.
Yeah, right. That's it. They're talking to each other. Yeah, the Bronco's fun, man. I got the OJ Special. It's a '94 white XLT. Although his was technically a 93, but the Chase was in 94. And they're identical. Like, they didn't really change much from 84 to 96. They're pretty standard. So they're fun.
Yeah, you're not helping me here, man.
What, you going to buy one?
With Christy hearing that, I don't have a Bronco. I know she loves Broncos. But
here we have a question. Che and Eric, what are your thoughts on, I think he's trying to say squatters, just missing a T. I mean, I believe very stringently in private property. So I don't know what else there is to say about that. I think it's obviously morally wrong and usually criminal to just occupy somebody else's house or whatever. What engine? Yeah. I've got the 5.8 liter Windsor V8 in the Bronco. Bulletproof. It's awesome. It's got a 32 gallon gas tank too. So even at like 14.5 miles a gallon or whatever, I can drive all day. It's a little painful to fill it up.
The tank. If you ever sell that, you'll have to let me know.
I will. I'm not planning on it.
All right. There was a story about a gentleman. Ironically, he was black and he moved into a white neighborhood and he squatted on this property. It's a famous story, or maybe not that famous if you guys, the audience, hasn't heard of it. But he got the house for $16. It was valued at $360, like a crazy amount. And what he did is he found some sort of loophole in the law. In Texas, there's a loophole. And Eric, I'll send you a link on this directly. It's Bill Bear does a little commentary on it. It's hilarious. And this loophole said if you squat for XYZ amount of property for such and such time, and
it counts as like abandoned or something, and then you get it basically.
Yeah,
if they haven't tried to fight it for that long, and then you have like squatters' rights, and then you it's
and
really
bizarre. This is pre BLM, but it's very funny, or maybe it's BLM pre-corona, anyways. They interview the news people interview, and the guy opens the door to the house, and it's just some black guy. He's a nice guy, says, "Hey, I found this loophole, blah 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 blah." It was just the paperwork cost $16, so that's wild. Then they interview the neighborhood, and they're all these white people, and they're all pissed, and they can't say anything directly about how furious. Because their property value went down as a result, right?
That's wild.
So
gotta appreciate the hustle at least. Find a crazy ass loophole. Wow.
Did Che lose his prepper hats? Yeah, no, it's just there it is. That's right here. This hat here, it's Australian.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it looks like the Crocodile Dundee. You got to get the teeth on there.
Yeah, Barma. That's the name of the company. I've had this hat for years.
That's cool.
So, but if Dean comes on next,
I don't look good in hats. I look weird with hats on, man.
You should try it.
I'll try one of those maybe with like a baseball cap on. I look like I'm either like simple or like an undercover cop or something.
Like a narc, FBI.
Yeah,
agent.
like a narc, or I look like a simple Jack or something. I just look weird. I don't know why. Besides, I got all my hair still, so it's okay.
Yeah.
I don't need to wear a hat.
Yeah, I just like to keep it.
Yeah, both of us, right? We're living the dream in our old age.
Still got it. Che is not Tim Pool. Eric, on squatting, what if your landlord makes sexual advances at you while paying? What?
Who is this?
This is the question.
Where is this? I want to see
SS Art 98.
I don't see it yet.
I need to read the questions first before reading them out loud. Read them in my mind first.
I see squatting as an efficient way to poop. I haven't seen the other one yet. Someone says, I got hit by one of those, talking about the tornado, on a motorcycle and got blown over 2 lanes, like being sandblasted. Oh, I believe it. One time in Florida, there was this really flat stretch outside of Gainesville by Paynes Prairie, and it was super, wind would just roar across there. And I had a Sportster, which was not a super heavy bike, maybe like 400 pounds. I was driving on the road like this, just like at an angle, trying not to get like blown over. Yeah, it was like, I was like, oh. It was wild.
Wow.
Where's the one about squatters and
it's
easier ways to pay my rent?
SS Art 98.
Oh, on squatting, what if your landlord makes sexual advances at you while paying rent? Well, it happened, didn't want to mess your marriage up, so started sending rent payments and she's refused to send receipts. Interesting. I don't know. Depends on what they look like, I guess, and if you're into that sort of thing.
Couple of good questions.
I'm not going to tell you how to live your life.
Yeah, watch. In a year from now, this is going to evolve to should I get a cat, Eric?
Right. Yeah, exactly. It'll be like advice hour.
Yeah.
You're like, it's Father's Day. I haven't talked to my dad in 3.5 years.
Yeah.
Can I just call him?
Eric and Che.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I found out my girlfriend has an OnlyFans account, and she didn't tell me about it. What should I do?
Yeah. Sorry, folks. There's a couple of good questions, but most of them have been pretty crappy. It's nice that Christy is on here because she's an amazing woman. It's nice to see her. I wish she would. She would ask a question. Or if you guys do have other questions.
She said yes, Eric and Shay. It was Prophets of Rage. So cool. If I'm assuming that's her.
No, I think she's actually named. I don't know who said that. I think it's just
said Christy Castro. Said
oh, okay. That. Yes, there you go. Yes, it is her. Yeah.
Then Colorado Biker Prepper says, what do you think will happen when the eviction moratorium gets lifted and hundreds of thousands of people get evicted and become homeless? It could easily happen. I think we're going to see more and more of these stimulus, transfer payment type situations, but we certainly could see more people moving in together, mass or housing price. I think I expected for a while for housing prices to take a pretty big hit, at least in the medium term. But with the way that they're pumping money in the system, that might not happen. It all depends on what they decide to do in terms of directly giving money to the people, not just bank and company bailouts, but whether they do more of these like UBI type things. Like there's been talks of giving people $2,000 a month until the coronavirus is gone. If that ever happens, obviously prices of stuff like rent and retail goods will go way up because there'll just be a lot of money and it'll have a lot more velocity than the money that they're pumping into the system up till this point into the banks and everything. And also, it will never go away. How are you going to run on a campaign? The only political talking point at that point will be, I'm going to keep the $2,000 a month. That will be, and then no one is going to say, well, I'm going to do all this other good stuff, but yeah, we're not going to keep the $2,000 a month because then no one will vote for them.
That's the Colorado Biker Prepper. Great question. Thanks.
Yeah,
bringing us back into the game here, the circle of intelligent discussion.
Right.
And that's a very valid concern. To the audience, who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, we don't. It depends on how the Fed and the government choose to react to the situation, whether they keep making it so that you can't evict people and things like that, or who knows,
Well, eventually it's going to give up, right? It's that we're going to get a vaccine or we're going to get, it's going to be a year from now or whatever happens. And then suddenly the courts are going to open. There's going to be this huge flux of people.
Right.
That there's probably a lot of people taking advantage of the system too, saying, screw you. I know I'm not going to get evicted.
So I'm not going to pay rent. Yeah, even though I can. Yeah.
Exactly. So,
I guess it depends mostly on what does unemployment and everything look like when we finally get to that point where they end these protections, Is there still going to be 25% unemployment? Then it'll get bad. Yeah, there'll be a lot of homeless people and whatnot. But if the retail economy is kind of recovered a little bit, then it won't necessarily look as bad.
Well, things aren't that bad if we can have a weekly chat. And 2 months ago, there's legitimate concerns for a virus. And today we're having the same sort of weekly discussion. And those concerns of the virus have gone down. And there's issues financially, obviously, but we're not going to, North America's, U.S. or Canada aren't going to turn into third world countries as a result of this. There's going to be struggles. I don't know. Great question, Colonel Biker. I have no idea. There's going to be long lineups, though.
We'll find out. Brian Powell says, stay out of the cities when the jury verdict comes out for the cops and election time. Thoughts? I mean, I think we'll see a spike in different types of civil unrest, regardless of what the verdict is. If it's the way large groups of people want it to be, where the cops, get charged or convicted of murder or whatever, there'll be celebratory protests, I think. If they get off, which is I'm expecting that they will, just because of what I know about the legal system, the police, the facts of the case. I'm not, at best, they'll be able to get him on involuntary manslaughter, negligent homicide, or something like that. They're not going to get first degree and second degree murder, I don't think, unless there's facts that I don't know about involving their previous relationship, that being that they both worked on that, and who knows? I don't know all the facts of the case, but based on what I do know, I would be kind of surprised at this point if they didn't get off, or at least get mostly off.
We're talking about George Floyd specifically?
Yeah, and definitely the Wendy's guy. I forget the name. There's no chance. There's no chance that guy's getting charged with or convicted of murder.
Right. No, I don't see that happening.
Chance.
We've got
because he can easily point and say, this is literally what the state told me to do in this situation, training wise, and that will take zero liability, all the liability away from him.
What's the guy doing? You've stolen the taser off of the cop.
Yeah, literally turning and in Georgia law, a taser is deadly weapon by Georgia law. So he literally point and fired a deadly weapon at a person who is armed, and so you can fear for your life in that situation. So I mean, there's zero chance that they're.
And it's very convenient for, you know, quote unquote, the movement to take one aspect and say, you know, nobody should get shot in the back.
Right.
But guess what? If I was standing right now and I was running and I would have.
Yeah, you turn like this or something.
Exactly. Right. So it's not like he was running away and there was 10 seconds. From my understanding, it was fractions of a second where he turned and shot with a taser and then he got shot. Guess what? If you're shooting at a cop with a taser, I don't want to say you deserve to get shot, but, it's just, like, what's the surprise?
Yeah, there's no surprise. And like I said, regardless of what you think should or shouldn't happen, just based on what I know of the facts, what I know of how the cops are trained and how the legal system works, that's definitely they're not going to.
Well, there'll be more looting,
and there will be more riots. Yeah,
definitely
for sure.
I mean, they charged more than the guy, going to the George Floyd case, the knee in the neck. That guy got charged in addition to cops surrounding.
Right. So that case, to me, I think will hinge completely on what the training, because that's like a specific move that they literally teach them. So it'll come down like the holding them down with a knee. Apparently, it's like literally part of like a restraint thing. They had like a name for it and everything. Like kneeing on your neck apparently is like some named technique for the police.
Okay.
So it all depends on what they tell them how to do it and when you shouldn't do it, kind of thing. So if he followed the letter of the training, then he's obviously going to get off. If he went beyond that, if they say in the training, once a person loses consciousness, you should get up, you know, which is kind of obvious to me. And what makes it so like uncomfortable to watch is just like the guy's completely passed out and he stays kneeling on his neck for minutes. Like as someone who watches like mixed martial arts and stuff, seen plenty of people get choked out and even live in training and stuff. Like it's uncomfortable to watch when he's unconscious and like you're like yelling at the ref, you know, stop it at the TV at some of these fights. It was like that situation. Like the guy is completely out, motionless, and you're just kneeing on his neck. So it's like, ugh. So it depends on what they trained them to do. And if that was within the bounds of it, then there's no way I think they ever are going to be able to charge them.
It's very odd situation. It's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens, especially if something happens around, this comes about at around election time for you guys in November. Because, I mean, what is it going to mean for society if the man responsible for George Floyd's death does not get convicted? What's going to happen to the mass amounts of civil unrest, the people out there basically it's a social justice. They're already out their pitchforks. They've already made this guy's guilty. They've already made their decision.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know,
so they want heads to roll. So, I mean, if anything short of that happens, then it's going to be a lot of unrest.
Well, the other cops that were subsequently charged that had nothing to do with you know, putting any sort of knee on George Floyd's neck, they were charged with some sort of, I don't know if it was manslaughter or whatnot. I think they're all going to get off.
I think so. That's my prediction. Regardless of what you think should happen, that's my prediction for what will happen.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, let's get another question or two in.
Let's see. Who has played chicken with a gun shooting it straight up in the air? Not sure what you mean.
Yeah. Disappointed, Evil Blonde.
Yeah, right.
Bad question. That was your redemption moment to ask us
Colorado
a good question.
Biker Prepper says, good advice. I estimate it will be between 6 to 12 months before the real effects of the housing crisis hit. I tend to agree, and I've been trying to specifically save money just for that reason, because I think sometime within the next 18 to 24 months is when we would see a decrease in housing prices, if it's going to happen. It won't be for the next few months because there's too much of them giving people money still and having people not allowed to be evicted or not have to pay rent. And it's going to take a few months after that. So that's my prediction for when we'll see that, if it happens. But like I said, it depends on what the Fed and the government decide to do. We could see the opposite, where everything gets really expensive because they're just pumping massive amounts of money into the system.
Right.
Like if they really start giving every family $2,000 a month, there's not going to be any houses unrented. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of unknowns
Right.
with how this thing is going to play out. And I don't know about the States. You guys are obviously dealing with a lot of leftist mentality, nonsense, batshit crazy actions, taking down statues. But in Canada, I think we're learning to accept the new normal, and we're just playing by the rules so that things can get more progressively opened up, so we can try to get back what we previously had.
Yeah, so I would say definitely you still, even though this virus has turned out to be not the extent of a shit fan that we thought it might be or knew it could be, you definitely still want to make sure you're in a position where you're not going to have to leave your house for, or you're able to not leave your house for a few weeks if you don't want to, especially if you're anywhere near any of these cities where this might pop off even more or is currently popping off.
Yes. Yeah. And even with defining what the new normal is or what it potentially could be, it's very fascinating to me to see this unravel. How we've got the left taking advantage of a very sensitive and vulnerable situation we are from an authority perspective on, with respect to the government, law enforcement, and corporations.
Right.
Really, like, snap, crackle, pop. Like, this is your argument. It's right. And to me, it's very.
That's what I mean. They're lashing out. That's why I said it's not about snap, crackle, pop guys or whatever.
They're lashing out.
And that's why removing them isn't going to change anything. Like bowing,
Well, we know that. Right. But at the same time, it's like so batshit crazy. It's fascinating, even with preparedness individuals as well. So all preppers aren't on the same page. Some people don't believe the coronavirus is real. Some people don't believe that the coronavirus is it's real but benign and it's used as some sort of ulterior motive. Some preppers X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, F, G. So it's fascinating to be an observer, to be going through the coronavirus,
right.
Going through this wave, metaphorically speaking, of what we're experiencing as a pandemic, and having all these wild views and perspectives just, evolving and surfacing. People think we're all going to get chips for the vaccine. People think that's,
right.
Insert conspiracy theory here.
Right. Whatever you want. There's some.
Whatever you want. And people will be talking about this for years, 10 years from now, 50, 20 years from now.
It's wild. Wild times, man.
Yes, sir. Do we get to tear down the MLK statues or the Obama statue?
Doubtful. And there's another statue question. Caleb Block says, Che, have they removed the statue of Dudley Do-Right?
Dudley Do-Right. Who's Dudley Do-Right?
He's like a Canadian Mountie from like Rocky and Bullwinkle, isn't he?
Is he?
Oh no, or Dudley Do-Right was just is he the Rocky and Bullwinkle one, or is he just from his own thing? He's like a Mountie though. I guess it's a American show and not a Canadian one.
Dude,
the Kamehameha
should know that.
Yeah, Hawaii. Who's Kid Rock? Do they still have a 10 or 14-day quarantine to get into Hawaii? That's what I heard. Like you can't even go to Hawaii without sitting in a hotel room for like 14 days or something. Pretty wild.
Yeah, sorry, don't know Dudley Do-Right. If it's the RCMP, then this whole phrase systemic racism has been popping up in the last week, and it's been attributed to the RCMP. At least we had a bit of an incident in Parliament with the leader of a party, the NDP, had called out another politician, claimed he was racist, and it's very childish. It's sad. It's sad to see politicians acting childish. Like
nothing new, but it's just
nothing new.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Cool. I think it's a wrap for me.
Yeah, that was a good solid. Went by pretty quick. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We might have some guests next time. We'll see. If not, we'll get the same awesome commentary from myself and Shane here.
Yep, that's right.
Cool. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Check out Che's channel, Prepper Logic. Check out RuleTheWasteland.com, and obviously you know about my YouTube channel if you're here. So appreciate it. Just hit the like button and go subscribe to Che as well, and we'll be back next week. Talk to you guys later.
Always a pleasure, folks. Have a great evening.
Okay.